Well, at level 3, we create what we call, well, we organise what we call a 2-panel deadline assessment opportunity, and it's a peer assessment. So at level 3, of course, they do 3 panels, and across all disciplines, so we've got painting, photography, design, printmaking. There's a slight agenda where we want the students to have 2 panels of work done by a certain date so that we can really get them to meet the overall deadline successfully. So we thought, well, if we set this date, let's also make the most of this and have a peer assessment activity. And so we get them out of the classes for the afternoon. They all come together and all their panels go up, and they basically look at each other's work and they give each other feedback.
Through the build-up to that 2-panel deadline day, we more or less spend a week or 2 before that just really setting them up for that so that there's value in it. We explain to them what will happen afterwards. We try and encourage them to understand that it is a very valuable tool because critique is very much a part of art practice anyways. And we make the assumption that most of our students will go on to tertiary, go on to visual arts. And we would feel very guilty for our colleagues in the tertiary sector to kind of get these students who've never done a critique, who don't know how to look at their work, be reflective, look at other students' work and be reflective. The important part of them learning to learn is how they know what the evaluation criteria is going to look like and becoming familiar with it.
We use this form, which we cut into 4, and it's got sort of questions that the students need to answer about their peers' work. And there's also a star and a wish. And this was based on a strategy that one of our colleagues brought back when he was looking at schools overseas. And the idea here is that with the star, they give something positive about the work that they really enjoyed when they looked at the panels. And then the wish is something that they wish that they would do more of. So it's sort of quite a gentle approach to giving feedback to each other, because it can, I think, some of the students do feel they don't want to give criticism to their friends' work. The questions at the top are based around the criteria language. And then they give them a grade of an achieved merit or an excellence. So the teachers also do this as well, and they do as many forms as they want during the time allocated. And then the students at the end receive their forms and take it with them, and they can then reflect on their own panels.
I mean, the most important thing, I think, is the transparency of what it is, of what they're being assessed against. I mean, it's really hard for students to understand. They feel that we are the gatekeepers of the information, and we're trying to say, well, we're not. We're facilitating the information. We're trying to make it transparent. And I think the other thing too is encouraging them of the authenticity of the 2-panel deadline, that it's not just good enough to have it on the screen, for example, if you're a photographer or designer, or it's not good enough to have it tucked away into a folio zip case if you're a painter or a printmaker, that by displaying it, you're actually making it public, you're putting it out there, and it's sort of that, that critique, which is an authentic, real-world experience, as opposed to a fabricated thing, which, oh, well, here it is on screen, and that's what it looks like.
The next day, during the next lesson that we see the students after the critique, we give them another form in which they fill out to reflect on what happened, and there's things like questions like, who do I go to see for further clarification? What were some of the positives about my work? What were some of the things I need to work on? And then they also are given a kind of a calendar of how they're going to now meet the deadlines for the rest of the year and what they need to revisit and all that sort of thing. So they also talk more about their work using the language of the criteria, because they've now really understood it by applying it to other students' work. And we feel that it really sets them up well for leading into that final part of the year of their 3rd panel.